Hello everybody, welcome back to Foreman Files Media. Today we're going to be ranking point guards in a tier list. Some of the tiers we have here are Superstar, Borderline All-Star, All-Star, Solid Starter, OK Starter, and a point guard who probably served better off the bench. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. And before I want to start the video, I want to point out that they're not duplicates, but they're two players that are on the same team. So, there's two players on the same team, so they obviously can't be starting point guards. I thought this was a starting point guard tier list, but it just says point guards at the moment. But I don't think every single, unless there's 60 point guards here, and I'm not counting, I don't think they're I don't see the backup point guard for the Knicks anyway. But whatever. I'll start with Kevin Porter Jr. Have his basketball reference page up right here. I'm gonna throw him at the solid starter. I feel like people underrate Kevin Porter Jr. a lot just because they say stuff that he's an empty stats guy on a terrible team, which the Rockets were last year. But I do want to say that empty stats are averaging, averaging like 19, like something that Devontae Graham did a couple years ago, where he averaged like 21 on terrible efficiency, and then got a pretty big contract. He averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, which by the way is doing a lot more than just score, on okay efficiency. It's not the greatest. The field goal percentage could be a little bit higher, but this is probably around league average if I had to guess. I'm basically just saying don't give up on Kevin Porter Jr. yet. I like him as a player. He could play the point guard. He could play the two. When he was at USC, he was more served as a wing scorer instead of a point guard, but he's really been able to adapt to the NBA well in terms of being able to average 5.7 or 6 assists. I was really excited to watch him at Cleveland because I thought he had a pretty underrated rookie year. And then he's just been able to get better as his years has gone by. He's only 22. He has a lot of time left. I'd like to see him go to a new team where he's able to play the two, like a combo guard position, instead of being on a Rockets team that was not ready to win last year and now added 2 point guards in this offseason that are probably going to end up being prioritized more than Kevin Porter Jr. But don't sleep on Kevin Porter Jr. I like him as a player, and I think him at solid starter is very fair. Next, we have Mike Conley. I'll throw him at okay starter. It's interesting because obviously we know Mike Conley is not the player he used to be, but he's still a good leader, and he does have his moments at times. In the play-in last year against the Lakers 8-7 matchup, obviously he hit those 3 free throws to send it into overtime. But his splits aren't terrible. 38 from 3 is pretty good. He still is averaging 7 assists. So putting him OK starter is good. Don't put him in off the bench yet. Off the bench is reserved for some of the worst players that are in this tier list. But keep him at OK starter. He's not the player he used to be, but he's still a valuable player on a team that is looking to make a playoff next year. Next, we have Scoot Henderson. I'll throw him at OK starter. He's a rookie. Will he start? I don't know. We'll see if Dame gets traded. It's looking that he probably. I don't even know at this point. If he doesn't get traded, it was reported that he will attend training camp for the Blazers. But if Scoot does end up starting, I think OK starter is good for him. Next, we have Dennis Schroeder. I'll put him at OK starter as well. Does he start for the Raptors this season? I'm not sure. Do they play Scotty Barnes at the 1? Or do they go with not Scoot Henderson, Dennis Schroeder, who is more of a veteran, who doesn't have the greatest facilitating statistics, if we pull it up real quick right here. But we know he's able to lead a team. I personally think that he's able probably to tap back when he was in OKC in Atlanta, when he was averaging close to 20 points per game. But I think Dennis Schroeder is a great addition for the Raptors, and he's going to bring something different than what Fred VanVleet brought, where VanVleet was more of a, or VanVleet was less effective from the field and for 3. Obviously, Dennis Schroeder is not the most efficient, but they have different styles of play. Shooter plays more at his own pace, so it's going to be interesting to see what the Rockets can do with their new head coach and how Dennis Shooter fits into that team. Good, okay starter is fair for him though. Next, you have Chris Paul, Throman solid starter. He's still. Oh, I just realized that this is backwards. He's still a solid starter. He's gonna. Does he start for the Warriors? You don't know, but I know whether or not he starts, he's gonna probably give us 9 and at least 9. 9 is that's probably a little low for him, but he's gonna give us somewhere between 9, 13 points per game, and probably around 7 to 9 assists. That by himself can put him into solid starter. Obviously, Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time, and it's gonna be interesting seeing him compete for a championship with this new Warriors team, which have a system that he's never played with before. He said that though he's only used as more of an isolation player or a pick and roll player, able to feed the bigs, he says that he's a player that can fit in any system. It's going to be interesting to see how he's able to fit into this Warrior system coming to the next season. Next, you have Terry Rozier. I'll throw him in solid starter too. Similar to Kevin Porter Jr., I feel like Terry Rozier doesn't get as much love as he deserves. He's less efficient than KBJ, averages more points. I guess he just averaged this many points just because LaMelo Ball missed a lot of the season. But if we're gonna throw Kevin Porter Jr. in solid starter, I feel like we have to do the same thing with Terry Rozier. Even though I think both players could serve really well off the bench, leading a second unit, but don't look over Terry Rozier. I mean, he's a 20-point per game scorer, and if I have KBJ here, I have to have Terry Rozier also because both good scoring point guards on bad teams. Next, we have Javon Carter. Throw him off the bench. I mean, does he end up starting for the Bulls this season? I don't know, with Caruso and Kobe White both coming back, and Ayo Dosunmu, who didn't have the greatest second year, but, sophomore slump. You have to expect him to come back stronger in his third year. But Javon Carter got a multi-year deal from the Bulls. The Bulls keep their Chicagoans. Javon Carter's from Chicago, so they have to have one guy from Chicago at all times. But he's an off the bench player. If he doesn't end up starting, it's just because the Bulls' point guard depth is pretty weak. I mean, we know Caruso is somewhat injury prone, and obviously Lonzo Ball. Hopefully he plays again in the NBA, but he won't be playing next season. So Javon Carter, I think he's going to be a good fit for the Bulls. And does he start? We'll see. Next, we have Luka. I'm not going to be the guy who says Luka is in the All-Star tier just because he's not an amazing defender. You have to know what Luka is good at, and he's literally the stuff that he's good at. He's better than the rest of the league at it. He's an amazing scorer. He's one of the league's best playmakers. He plays at his own pace. I said Dennis Schroeder played at his own pace, but for Luka, it's completely different. He's able to draw defenders. Driving kicks are very big for him. He's also able to work in the mid to high post area with little touch shots, little floaters. He has a nice fadeaway jump shot, and let's give Luka what he deserves. He deserves to be in the superstar range. It's not underrated with the All-Star because that's definitely not true. Luka is one of the most talented point guards in the league. You could say he's number 2. I think Dame and him are pretty similar, not in playing style, but in range, probably like that. Probably give to Luka the edge, but don't disrespect Luka by putting him in the All-Star tier. Luka is one of the best point guards in the league. Next, you have Kyle Lowry. What did he even put up last season? I'm not going to be disrespectful to Kyle Lowry. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. But 11, 4, 5 on bad efficiency. Not bad efficiency. Not good efficiency, though. And honestly, I really just expect that to keep going down. Also, if they end up trading for Damian Lillard, he is an off-the-bench player, Kyle Lowry. But I want to look at Javon Carter's stats real quick as well. Yeah, they're both point guards who would serve better off the bench. Obviously, Kyle Lowry is an amazing leader, though. Steph Curry, I don't really have to explain this one. I'll put him in the front. Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's interesting. He just won Sixth Man of the Year last season. Sorry if my mic was bad, but he just won Sixth Man of the Year last season. I think we could put him in solid starter. Because if he did start, he would be a solid starter. But he runs the second unit very well. He's able to score when he needs to. He's able to pass when he needs to, and he's not a bad rebounding guard either. He used to be a better defender when he was in his early years in Indiana, but he's still a solid defender. He still can get the job done, and putting him in solid starter is very fair. I think these tier of guys are all very similar. Derek White now, you gotta put him in solid starter as well. The stats aren't that eye opener. I mean, 12 points per game, 3, 4. Like, that's not. You wouldn't expect that to be in the same range of a guy who averages 20, a guy who averages near 10 assists, a guy who averages 21, the reigning sixth man of the year. But what really sets Derek White apart, as you could see right here, he was the best defender on the Boston Celtics last season, and that's saying a lot considering looks like his birthday about a month ago, but that's saying a lot considering they had the reigning defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart, on their team, and they have a very versatile, long, stocky defender in Robert Williams who was on their team, and him being the best defender, Derek White, on that team says a lot for a team who is trying to make a finals push. He's going to be their starting point guard for next season, and are the Celtics finals favorites? You could argue that. But it's going to be interesting to see how Derek White continues to build with the Celtics team. How maybe he can improve his three-point shooting a little more, being more effective off the catch and shoot. He was good in the playoffs, but not amazing in the regular season. But Derek White in solid starter is very fair. Next, we have Spencer Dinwiddie. I'll put him in okay starter. I just think it's cool that he's back in Brooklyn, where he was probably most known for in the beginning of his career. I know he played for obviously Detroit for a couple seasons, but when he came to Brooklyn, he really made a name for himself. Then went to Washington, Dallas, stuff like that. His stats say 17, 3, 5, and 6. It's just it feels like there's something Spencer Dinwiddie is missing in his game or something that's missing from his game that keeps him from the borderline all-star tier. But I can't really put my finger on it. I'll keep him in the solid starter for right now. But he's another player like him, Malcolm Brogdon, Terry Rozier, Kevin Porter Jr. are all players who could be very elite with that second unit. And the positions they were put in last year, they just weren't able to do that. So they can all be in solid starters right now. I might move some of them down to okay starter because I have Scoot Henderson here, who I think could possibly have a better season than all of these guys. But I'll keep them where they are right now. Next, we have D'Angelo. I'll throw D'Angelo in solid starter. Just want to look at his statistics real quick. Actually, I might move it. D'Angelo averaged, 18 and 6. Good efficiency. And I think I'm going to do a little moving real quick. I'm going to throw Terry Rozier down to okay starter. I'm going to keep these guys here. I'll keep... Where did Malcolm Brogdon put up last season? Sorry looking at all these stats, but it's just interesting to see. I'll keep Malcolm Brogdon up here. Derek White will keep up here. I'll move Dinwiddie down as well, which feels wrong because it feels like all of these guys deserve to be up here. And I'll throw D'Lo down there as well. Now I'll keep D'Angelo Russell up. Yeah, these two tiers are very, very, very similar to each other. And now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if I should put a tier in between, but I'll put a tier in between. I don't even know what to name. I'll just name it in between for right now. Yeah. So in the in between tier, I'll throw Spencer here. I'll throw Terry here. I'll throw D'Lo here. Yeah, that's fair. Next, we have Tyrese Halliburton. He was an all-star last season. I'm not saying that's what makes him an all-star in the all-star category, but I'm saying that He has a lot of potential to do much more than just pass the ball. I mean, he averaged what? He averaged like 21 last season. He was their go-to guy, and see if this Pacers team could possibly make a play-in push and even a playoff push if possible. Marcus Smart, I'll throw Marcus Smart. I'll throw in the solid starter tier. Um, it's gonna be very interesting to see how this Grizzly team does next year or this year with Marcus Smart and John Morant probably both playing on the court at the same time. I'd assume. Yeah, Marcus Smart, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Him and Derek White, similar play styles, I guess. I mean, Derek White's more of a guy who can get into the floater area than the high post area, but two lockdown defenders. Obviously, former Celtics, one of them is, and yeah, I mean, I like Marcus Smart, but these three tiers they're very very close to each other. I can tell you that. Next, we have Harden. Throw him in the All-Star tier. Don't disrespect Harden um after one not amazing season. James Harden is still James Harden, and whether he's on the Clippers next season or possibly another team, you can expect that James Harden, I think, will play better, especially on a team that is not surrounded around a center. If he goes to the Clippers, you got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who are both mostly isolation players. Obviously, Harden as well, but maybe seeing a team that's not surrounded around a center, we could see more James Harden open up. Maybe go back to Houston James Harden. That's a lot to ask, but I still believe in James Harden fully. Next, we have LaMelo Ball. I also know he was an All-Star last season. I'm gonna put him in borderline All-Star. I like LaMelo Ball. He had good counting stats last season. He only played like 35 games, 36 games, I think it is. But I just don't know if he can be an all-star every year. I'm not gonna guarantee this to you, but if Tyrese Halliburton and James Harden stay healthy to the All-Star break, I'd have them more likely making an All-Star than LaMelo Ball. And Harden was not an All-Star last season. LaMelo Ball was, so you could argue that, but this isn't what they did last season. This is more projecting into next season. And I'll throw LaMelo Ball. I'll throw him in borderline All-Star right now. Next, we have Amen Thompson. I want to make sure this is Amen. They don't have a Sora on this tier list. Yeah, this is Amen Thompson. Okay, starter. I mean, in the couple minutes he played in the Summer League, he looked really good. The shooting, obviously, is not there, but he looked good. It's going to be interesting to see how him and Jalen Green, the most athletic backcourt in the league, will play next season. Or I guess he won't start, but you know what I mean. Men Thompson, the okay starter, is fair. Next, we have Trae Young. Okay, he's an underrated player now. He used to be overrated, and because the public was overrating him, he turned to an underrated player. Does not get the respect he deserves. He's still one of the league's best players. After that 2021 season where he led the Atlanta Hawks to the conference finals, then they lost to the Bucks with a hurt Giannis, which I thought the Hawks could have possibly made the finals, but Giannis powered through it. After that season, we were thinking that the Hawks were the next up. That was a young team. Who was it that they had? Kevon Huerter on that team, who at that time was probably like 26 years old, something like that. Obviously, young Trae Young. DeAndre Hunter was still blossoming. Clint Capella looked good. Onyeka Okongwu had his flashes, and John Collins at that time. That was the year where he, dunked on Embiid, and they got in a little altercation. But after that year, the Hawks were never the same, and now people are overrating Trae Young, putting it all on him. He didn't have his most amazing season last year. He was less efficient. But I don't expect Trae Young to be as... He was not bad as he was last season, but I expect him to move his percentages up, basically. Next, we have Gabe Vincent. His stats might say that he deserves to be in the off-the-bench tier, but I'll throw him in the okay starter. Just what he's able to do, what he's shown he was able to do in the playoffs separates him from, Javon Carter and the guy who started over, Kyle Lowry. He won't start with the Lakers next season, I think. I think it would be D'Angelo, but if he was a start, he's an okay starter. He his game gets that much better when it comes playoff time. Next we have Shea and Damian Lillard. I'll get these guys both down here. They're both superstars. Shea is a new addition to the superstar tier. Last season. I want us to look at Shea. What his stats look like prior to this season. Obviously, his 31 points per game, but he was around the 24, 23. We didn't expect him to make this type of jump, and he did. He was hovering around these tiers the last 2 seasons, and he moved his game up to go to the superstar tier. I like Shea. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Thunder progress next season with Chet Holmgren being back, with the progression of Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, and the leader Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Next we have Tyrese Maxey. Because I don't think James Harden will be a 76er next year, I'll throw Tyrese Maxey in the borderline All-Star. He's going to have so much opportunity. He's not really a point guard. He's not the greatest facilitator, the greatest playmaker, but he's able to get downhill like no one else in the league can. He's one of, if not the fastest player in the league. You have De'Aaron Fox, too, who was not on this. No, he's on this tier list. You have De'Aaron Fox, too. And Tyrese Maxey is going to be a problem when he's actually able to take the lead guard role instead of it being James Harden. And before James Harden was it Ben Simmons for a year? I forgot if they overlapped. I think they overlapped for 1 year. But Tyrese Maxey, he's going to be able to show himself this season. And he could be a sneaky All-Star candidate. You never know. Next we have Kyrie Irving. I'll throw him an All-Star right now. I never thought that he was ever in the same tier as guys like Steph Curry or Damian Lillard. I thought he was just one tier beneath them, and obviously the All-Star tier. But I don't believe in this Mavericks team at all, basically. And it's going to be interesting seeing if Kyrie and Luka can actually work. And if it breaks down early, does Kyrie get traded at the deadline? You never really know. But Kyrie Irving, he's an All-Star. If he's healthy until the All-Star break, I will guarantee you that he's an All-Star. I'm going to count something at the end of this, see how many East versus West superstars / All-Stars / borderline All-Stars there are to see, who actually, if it actually makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Next, we have Fred VanVleet. I'll throw Fred VanVleet in the... I think I'll throw Fred VanVleet in the in-between tier. Yeah, I'll throw Fred VanVleet into the in-between tier, I think. Just want to look at his statistics last season. Yeah, obviously not efficient at all. He was still a good distributor. He played a good amount of games, 69, out of the 82 games. Obviously you see more point guards taking more breaks. I mean, just look at a couple here. James Harden, obviously Kyrie Irving, out for different reasons. And LaMelo Ball is pretty injury prone at this point. But this is a good tier for Fred VanVleet here. I'm going to try to name it something different, and I'll probably show you guys at the end of the video. But these guys, they're good scorers, really, but they don't really move their team to the next level. They don't really, when you have guys like Kevin Porter Jr., I guess that's pretty bad players to name out, but when you have guys like Chris Paul, these Celtics guards or former Celtics guards, with Marcus Smart, those are guys that progress teams. Kevin Porter Jr., I'm just putting him up here because he puts up good stats and he's efficient. You have a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie. He might not be inefficient, but does he really help a team get to the next step? Same thing with Terry Rozier. Same thing with D'Angelo Russell and Fred VanVleet. You could make a point that KPJ deserves to be down here, and if he deserves to be up here, deserves to be at the end of the tier. But Fred VanVleet deserves to be in this in-between tier. I remember a couple years ago when he was here, but things changed. Not as efficient. Hope to see him improve next season. Next, we have Russ. Russ is interesting. And I don't want to put him into the in between tier, even though his stats probably say that he deserves it. Just by feel, I'll throw him to the solid starter tier. Um, the difference between how he played with the Lakers last season, and the Clippers, was very, very big. He looked more fresh with the Clippers. He was able to do more his own thing when it came playoff time. Yeah, I think he had a game of 10 turnovers or something like that, but he was able to make a game-winning stop at the end. Yeah, I believe he made a game-winning stop at the end. His shooting looked better. He looked more aggressive. Maybe not more aggressive, but he looked more controlled. And I still like Russell Westbrook. I think he'd be a starting point guard on the championship team. Just, does he deserve to be here? I don't know. I mean, I'll keep him here for right now. Next, we have Colin Sexton. He really goes, this. I'll name it this: point guards that don't. I'll just name it guards. Guards that don't. Whatever. Guards that don't help their team as much as the guys in solid starter, basically. But I'm not gonna write that whole thing. Whatever. But Colin Sexton, he fits these guys right here. Now, Markelle Fultz, on the other hand, I think Markelle Fultz has a lot of potential to end up here, over here. You know what I'm gonna do? Forget this tier. Actually, I'm gonna have to move the players out of here first. We'll move Colin Sexton down. We'll move Fred up. We'll move D'Lo up. We'll move Terry Rozier and him down. Yeah, these tiers are so close. Excuse me. Solid starter and okay starter. But, yeah. Next, we have Tyus Jones. I feel like this one's pretty easy. He's an okay starter. Ja Morant. We'll throw Ja Morant into the All-Star tier, not superstar. Ja Morant needs to prove me that he can do more than lead his team to a second round exit. All three, or one, two, or all these guys up here are better than John. First of all these guys up here are better than John Morant. Obviously, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Dame, and then Shea. It's close. But even three of these guys here, like Kyrie Irving, Trae Young, James Harden, have all proved to be able to lead their team more than John Morant has. So I'm excited for Marcus Smart on the Grizzlies next season, where he can take more of a leadership role. But John Morant just is not here yet. I need to see more out of the Grizzlies team and all, because that team is young, has great potential. Jaren Jackson Jr. I think is going to be a spectacular player when it's all said and done. But John Morant's just not the superstar tier yet. Next is Cade Cunningham. And I can't put him in borderline all-star. He's just been too injury prone. I'll put him in solid starter, but he's just been too injury prone. Even in his rookie season, which was probably the most we've seen him, which was it actually 4 years we've seen him play, he wasn't amazing. I mean, the efficiency was not good, and you could expect that out of a young guard. But only 31 from 3, only 41 from the fields. And coming into the second season, he did the exact same thing. If you're going to average around, 17 to 19 points per game and shoot 40 from the field and 30 from the three-point line, you don't deserve to be a borderline all-star, in my opinion. So I'll put him in the solid starter range. Those are some Kelly Oubre type numbers. Not comparing the two, but, we don't consider Kelly Oubre as a borderline all-star. I'll pull it up right now, actually. Just compare some of the stats. Oubre averaged 25. Okay, we'll just look at the points and efficiency. Oubre averaged 20 on 43, 32, 76 splits. Cade averaged 20 on 41, 27. I was reading something wrong. It's actually 27 and 83 splits. You could argue that Kelly Oubre, or I think you had a really good argument that Kelly Oubre puts a better stats than Cade Cunningham. And if I'm going to tell you Kelly Oubre is around the solid starter range, I'm not going to tell you that Cade Cunningham is around the borderline all-star range, because that's just not true. Next we have Trey Jones. I'll put him in the... Does he deserve to be in the same range that his brother Tyus Jones is when he's not better than him? My screen frozen. Just look at his statistics from last season. He averaged 13 and 6. Not amazing efficiency, but he's a young guard. I think it's cool that he's in this Popovich system where, obviously I don't think that's where he started his career. No, he did start his career there. I'm being dumb, but he doesn't remind me of Tony Parker, but could he kind of fit the role where undersized guard who is a really good passer, maybe he's not going to average 11 assists, but he's able to run an offense, run a team. Just like his brother Trey Jones doesn't turn the ball over that much. You see only 0.4 or 0.7 got up to 1, but that comes with more minutes. Trey Jones is not deserving the off the bench tier. Is there one more guy that deserves to be there? Yeah. Is there two more guys? Maybe, but not from right now. DeJounte Murray, I'll throw him in borderline all-star. I think they'll play better next season. There were two pretty much ball-dominant guards when they came into last season. Now with Quinn Snyder, who's an amazing head coach, I feel like these guys will be able to work together better instead of one guy standing to the side watching the other guy do his isolation. Seeing DeJounte Murray maybe develop the three-point shot would be nice, but I still believe DeJounte Murray is in the borderline all-star tier. I don't think he deserves to be down here with these guys in the solid starter. Next we have Monte Morris, and before I make my decision, I'm gonna look at his stats real quick. It's not gonna decide my decision. It's not bad, but look at Trey Jones one more time, Okay. 1, 2, both off the bench in my opinion. I know DeLon Wright doesn't have terrible counting stats. It's just I don't see him as a starting point guard in the NBA. Next we have Jalen Brunson. I'll put him in the All-Star tier. He was not an All-Star last season, and one could say he was snubbed, but in that second half of the season after the All-Star break and in the playoffs, Jalen Brunson is a different beast. Jalen Brunson outplayed every single one of these guys in the second half of the season. John Morant, iffy, but I'd say Kyrie, definitely. Trae Young, probably. More team success, so I'll give it to him. It's close, though. It's very close. And these two guys, I just think Jalen Brunson, you could make an argument that he's better than Harden and Tyrese Halliburton. I don't want to give Brunson too much praise because then I'd be overrating him because he's like right in between these two tiers. I'll put him in All-Star. He deserves to be an All-Star. He's a great player. He's a great team leader. He can get the job done at the starting point guard position. Next, we have Cole Anthony. I'll put him in okay starter. Does he even start? I don't think he starts. He puts up points on okay efficiency. I feel like this is the perfect tier for him. I'll put him in okay starter. He doesn't deserve me a solid starter, and I don't think he deserves to be an off the bench tier. I like him. Next, we have Andrew Nembhard, who, in my opinion, had one of the more underrated rookie seasons in the league. He averaged 9 and 5. He started at the shooting guard position next to Tyrese Halliburton. They're both like 6'5", so it's not like that Andrew Nembhard couldn't play the shooting guard. But, I'll put him in the off the bench tier right now. Next season, or at the end of this season, this upcoming 23-24 season, if he's able to average like 13 and 7 next season, you can put him in the solid starter tier, in my opinion. Right now, off the bench, though. Next, we have De'Aaron. This one's easy. I don't have to think about it. De'Aaron Fox is one of the best point guards in the league. At the end of this video, I'm gonna try to put who deserves to be in the front. Jrue Holiday as well. That's easy. Jamal Murray, what he was able to do in the playoffs is just amazing. Shows that Jamal Murray is probably more of a playoff player, but is definitely an all-star caliber player. I'll actually throw him down because he's never made one before. You could argue the same thing with Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson, what he was able to do through more of the season than what Jamal Murray was able to do, I'll keep him in the all-star tier. And last player we have Darius Garland. Um, Darius Garland. And one more thing I want to mention. I'll put him in off the bench, but I'll keep him for right here until I rate him. One thing I want to mention about Jamal Murray is that, actually, never mind. No. Darius Garland, I'll throw him in the borderline all-star tier. It just seems fair. I mean, he's in the same tier of players as all these guys are. If you want to say Jamal Murray's up here, you could. And I'm kind of tempted to put him here because I feel like he's going to have a big jump going into next season. He's always been a good / great player. I think he's going to become more of an excellent player. Hopefully he's able to play the whole season. Obviously, we know injuries have affected him before. But, Jamal Murray is a great player. I don't know where I want to put him, though. Do I want to put him in all-star tier? I feel like if Jalen Brunson's here, I have to put Jamal Murray here, but then I feel like that he's in the tier of some of these guys. So, I'll move Jalen Brunson down just to be safe. He's never been an all-star. Every single one in this tier has been an all-star in their career. So, just to be safe, these two guys have never been an all-star. Garland has been, DeJounte has been, Tyrese has not been, and LaMelo has been. So yeah, that's the tier list. Before I leave, I want to do a little bit more of ranking them in their tiers. Like Luka and Dame are so close. I'll keep Luka up there for right now. So this is good to me. I think Ja Morant is the leader in this tier. Just want to make sure I'm still recording. Never mind. This is too much. These are the tiers. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and look out for more tier list position videos, or maybe just tier videos in general. I mean, we'll do shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and center. Obviously, I mean, we're not just gonna do point guards. And then after that, we could do most intriguing teams, maybe a Hall of Fame probability. I've seen people do that before. But yeah, let's get the final tier list in the frame right here. You could pause, look at it if you forgot what I said about some of the players. But thank you for watching this video, and yeah, we'll see you later.